Hey guys, I'm in the forest on a run with the dogs, just taking a breather. Now I'm going to tell you about invasive species. Now, if you remember from a previous video, a non-native, alien, or introduced species is something that got to a location with human assistance. But also remember, only 10 to 15% of all non-native species become invasive, which means becomes a problem for local native species. What do I mean by becomes a problem? Well, it means that they either outcompete or threaten the survival of a native species. Perfect example of this is this Japanese knotweed, which by growing really quickly outcompetes a lot of the plants underneath it. Luckily, it hasn't gotten a hold here in this woodland because this is more biodiverse and thus more resilient to invasives. But that's not to say it won't become an issue in the future. Yes, I am very sweaty now. And just to give you an example of non-natives that aren't invasive, we have a conker tree here and a sycamore here, but we do have natives living just fine underneath their boughs. A prime example of a non-native invasive animal species here in the UK is the harlequin ladybird. These not only compete for food with our native ladybirds, but they actively eat the babies of our native ladybirds. Luckily, I don't see any here. Loud! Now here's something that's going to blow your mind. If an ecosystem is messed up, native species can become invasive. This is a native fern called bracken. And whilst in this location it slots in just fine amongst other plants, in a lot of places like open disused farmland, this can become rampant. This is because humans have killed off the native species that keep them in check. Things like native auroch cattle, bison, but most notably the wild boar. Whilst the adult bracken are toxic / very unpalatable to most species, the rhizomes underneath the soil are edible to boar. So since wild boar are almost completely extinct in the UK, you have a lot of invasive native bracken. Sometimes even beloved native animal species that are vulnerable to extinction, like our hedgehogs, can become invasive within our own shores. Whilst hedgehogs are vulnerable to extinction on the mainland, and they have always been native to the mainland of Britain, they've been introduced to the Outer Hebrides of Scotland. This is outside of their natural distribution. They never got there without human help, and thus a lot of the animals native to those islands haven't adapted to deal with them. So thus they've become a massive issue for a lot of the ground nesting birds on the island whose eggs get eaten by these hedgehogs. Only we Brits could mess up so bad that a species vulnerable to extinction could also become an invasive species. We are so bad at managing invasive species that over half of all the plants found in the UK are introduced. It doesn't just stop there. If you weighed all the birds in the UK together, over half of that weight would be introduced non-native invasive game birds like pheasants and partridges. Anyway, this video is already getting very long. Next one is how to tackle invasive species.